Hello, Reporter Room investigators. My name is Jessica Della Davies. I'm an investigative journalist. My job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects and show you how to do the same thing. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our Reporter Room family. Please allow me to CYA myself. Everything I'm sharing is my opinion. Opinions are not facts, so please feel free to do your own research. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Okay, so I want to thank our subscribers, our mods, and our channel members. Come on in, come on in. So, is the Sebastian Rogers case devolving instead of evolving? And what I mean by this is, does Seth Rogers deserve better representation than what he's getting from Tony Mathis? His lack of experience doing PR work really created a dumpster fire this week. Let me explain.
Sebastian, he is...
I'd like to say to whoever has my children that they please.
We just wanted to eat.
Functioning autistic.
Happy and alive.
Wherever you are, just know that we are not going to stop.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Okay, so let me just go ahead. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 packages to dig into. I hope I can get through everything. Some of you guys may have seen some or parts of this, but we have not watched it together as a community. So this is how I just want to share just a very quick overview of how it all started. And then we're going to dig into the meat and potatoes of everything, because what's going on just doesn't have a good feel to it. So this was a TikTok video, and on it was hosted by Tony Mathis. You can see he's up here. Let me make sure that you're looking at what I'm looking at. Yep. That he's up here. He's in the upper left-hand corner. Now, he had somebody come on to his TikTok and make some very bizarre claims. And I'm not going to say the content creator's name, but he came on and he claimed that there was a sighting of Sebastian Rogers on February 26th, and that there was a sighting, and that Sebastian had been texting with Katie's mom the night before he disappeared. Is any of this true? Let's listen in, because Tony lets this go by in a live stream that he's hosting on TikTok. So does he have a fiduciary responsibility as the PR manager to stop this and not get Seth's and hopes up? Because I feel like, and not spread misinformation. I think as a PR manager, one of your jobs is to make sure that you're sharing credible information. And this means taking time to vet the information. So let's talk about this.
At midday today. The first one was last night, which was we got evidence that showed that Sebastian was texting Katie's mom the night before he went missing. Nothing really significant or deep.
So that's just not true. It's flat out not true. He's literally on TikTok saying something that is not true. There is no evidence of this, and I'm going to show you the receipts in just a second.
Nothing really significant or deep. He was texting her. You know, we were led to believe that there wasn't really any communication between them. He was texting her about what a great breakfast he had had. I mean, it was all positive stuff.
Was that from his phone directly?
Correct.
Okay.
And then, so then on top of that, we got information that there's actual video footage of Sebastian from the 26th.
This is also not true. Listen again.
of Sebastian from the 20th. And then, so then on top of that, we got information that there's actual video footage of Sebastian from the 26th, which was much bigger. But then probably the biggest thing, in my opinion, that we got was that law enforcement had a theory the first 72 hours. And after that first 72 hours, their theory took a 180-degree turn, which I thought was huge.
I don't know if that's true or not true. The first two are absolutely not true. And so this is the PR person that's supposed to be representing Seth Rogers. Now, Seth fired PI Chloe, right? He let her go because he felt like what he said on the Pascal show was that he felt like Chloe was withholding things from him. But sometimes when you're working with a license like Chloe does, or you're working in any capacity as a PR person, as a journalist, sometimes you do hold back information while you vet it. And if it doesn't vet out, I have people that contact me all the time. They try to insert themselves into the case. Sometimes they say they have photos, which I always say give straight to the TBI if you do, because that's all I'm going to do with them. But part of your job is to do vetting. So I do find that, a lot of people are blaming another TikToker who came on and he did say some things. But if your source is simply just another guy or another woman or female or male that's just happens to be involved in the case, that's not with no reputable source from law enforcement, that is a problem. And I think that, Steve Fisher called it when he first saw Tony Mathis coming into the case. He said law enforcement's not going to want to deal with him for a couple of reasons. And one is that he has multiple felony counts. Now, I'm not saying that having multiple felony counts that maybe you shouldn't be getting a second chance. Of course you should. But should you be on, as the PR person, on such a high profile case? Well, maybe. I was willing to give Tony a chance to come on and do his thing. But I'm not convinced with this. This is his entree into the sphere. And I just wanted to hold back a day rather than go live with this on yesterday, because I just wanted to try to line up some ducks to just see, is he telling the truth? Does he know something that we don't know? And I don't believe that he does. So I just don't think that this is a reputable way to handle this. Come on in. I'm not blaming Seth. Okay. Seth is a grieving dad. He's just doing the best that he can. I'm not blaming Seth at all. I'm just saying that Seth deserves better representation and he deserves credible information. And I guess the question that I want to know, and certainly Seth can get rid of any private investigators that he wants to, but maybe the reason that Chloe wasn't passing on certain pieces of information to Seth is not because she was trying to withhold Seth from information. I highly doubt that, since she was representing Seth. Maybe she was withholding stuff because she was trying to vet it, and because maybe it didn't pan out. So anyway, come on in. But this is just okay. So these are the three claims that were made, and I just, I wanted you to hear it from his mouth, so it's not me just parroting back what he says. So the three main points are: one, law, and this is a public group on Reddit. I don't go into private groups and share their information. At least I try not to. So the three supposed pieces of news from Tony Mathis, and he is the PR spokesperson, so this is his responsibility to vet this information, is one, law enforcement has footage of Sebastian on 2/26/24, and they have not released any information of this footage. And they've had this footage from the start. It's not true, and I'm going to show you in just a second. Sebastian was communicating with Katie Proudfoot's mother the night he went missing. Also not true. 3, law enforcement has a theory the first 72 hours, and then their theory did a 180 after, from being he wandered away. We don't know. We don't know if this is true or not true. But judging on the first two, I'm going to say that, it's possible. I'm sure they do have some new theories in the case, but I can't tamp this down. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I'm not going to dig into too much more than that because we have a lot of stuff to get into today. But that was really disheartening to say. I have to say. So let's go to somebody that does have. Okay, so this was the TikToker this information we found out afterward came from a TikToker. Okay, it came from a TikToker. So that should tell you a lot, okay? As far as like credibility of information. But let me pull this up. Okay, let me grab this one. Sorry, guys. Come on in for a second. I'm just pulling this up. I just want to show you this. Okay. Okay, so this is and you guys know I love to use local journalistic sources because they have information and have access to police departments. They have long-standing relationships with police departments, where the police have, decided that they are willing to work with certain people. I really wish that Seth would avail himself of a PR person. I think people would chip in and donate to that if he would get a PR person and pay for somebody who has a proven track record and who doesn't have this baggage that Tony's bringing into the case. Now, I'm not blaming Tony. There's a missing. Sebastian Rogers is missing, and that is at stake. So there is a lot. Okay, so Nick Bears has a great working relationship with law enforcement. He says more rumors run rampant. And what's really frustrating and what I really have a problem with is that the rumors are being spread by the PR person representing Seth Rogers. And I feel bad for Seth because I feel like he deserves better. He said, I appreciate the fact that so many of you continue to show interest in the Sebastian Rogers case and you message me with questions. The 15-year-old autistic boy has been missing for 2 months from his Hendersonville home, vanished and not a trace despite massive search efforts. Authorities say there's no evidence of foul play, though they have not ruled it out. So authorities aren't ruling out evidence of foul play, and I'm not either. In the absence of any new developments, armchair detectives on social media and podcasts have create their own fiction. But it's worse than that. It's not just armchair detectives, although there was a little bit of that. This is the PR person that's spreading this. And I don't know if Nick knew where this was coming from, but I just wanted to show you out of the horse's mouth where the information originated from. Because a lot of people are bashing a TikToker for it, and he may have been the one that said it to Tony, but that was Tony's responsibility as the spokesperson to vet the information before sharing it. So he says, in the absence of any new developments, armchair detectives on social media and podcasts create their own fiction. Again, this was not coming from podcasts. This came from the PR person. And I also appreciate so many of you contacting me to see if any of it's true. And I do too. I applaud the people that reached out. And I am going to say hi to chat. I'm sorry. I applaud the people that took the time to try to find out if this was true or not. Because imagine being Seth Rogers and getting your hopes up that maybe he was with Katie Proudfoot's mom or something like that because he was messaging with her. Right? Maybe there is a video sighting and proof of life on February 26th. Remember, the only proof of life that Seth has seen is from the Texas Roadhouse restaurant. After that, I don't know. And I think the timeline with Katie and Chris Proudfoot needs to be re-looked at and reopened, because at this point, I don't think anything should be off the table. So he said, you can trust I'll give it to you straight. So what are a couple of the latest doozies? Investigators have obtained new video showing Sebastian alive on February 26 when he disappeared. Big caps. Nope. Okay. So he checked in with law enforcement. They trust him. He's a local journalist with News Channel 5. 2, there's evidence showing Sebastian was in contact with his grandmother on his mother's side before he disappeared. Again, big caps. Nope. How do I know? Well, I've been in direct contact with the lead investigator with the Sumner County Sheriff's Department, who says all this latest stuff is all garbage. So he's quoting the Sumner County Sheriff's Office, who is telling him it's garbage, you guys. So again, who did this come from? I know people are like, pointing out a local TikToker, but who put it out there? The PR manager, the PR spokesperson, Tony Mathis. So would they like to have any new leads in the case? You bet. And they respond to all tips. But they do deal in facts, as do I. Do authorities tell us everything they have in the case file? No. Law enforcement doesn't have to tell us everything. They don't have to show their case. They don't have to do anything that's going to ruin the integrity of their case. But they won't lie and say something's not true, say something's false if it isn't false. They will simply say no comment. So he says, hopefully there will be a credible break in the case soon. Until then, please be very skeptical of studying new developments unless they come from a credible official source. In the meantime, call tips to 1-800-TBI. Find, please share. So I am sharing. So I think that this is really frustrating. And I think Seth Rogers, I think as a community, I think people would be willing to fundraise to pay for a PR person at this point. Because I do think he deserves better. I want to welcome Julie S. as a new channel member. Welcome, Julie. Let me say hello to chat. But we're going to talk more about this. I don't really want to say too much about the YouTuber. I'm really not here to he did apologize. I guess I could show you that. But it's really who has not apologized? Tony has not apologized. Tony's not apologized. And I think he owes the community, he owes Seth Rogers and all of the searchers and everybody that's reporting on this case, he owes us the truth. And when he makes a mistake, he needs to own up to it and say, and maybe he's apologized since before I just pulled my last bits of information, but it doesn't seem like he did. We're going to talk more about Tony in just a second. This is the TikToker. Everybody's like been blaming this guy. He did apologize. I don't know. I'll just play it, his statement. I don't know. Is this all his fault? I don't think it is. Hang on, guys. I have TikTok wanting me to prove I'm me by asking me to drag the slider. Let me just do that. All right, let me back this up. So this is just 4 minutes long. So this is the TikToker. He came on the panel also and said that he had this information. So maybe this was Tony's source and maybe that's why this guy's apologizing. But to me, I didn't take it from this guy's coming out and saying it. I took it from Tony and that's why I wanted to literally show you Tony saying it. So this is the guy that's come out and apologized, which I think is great. So what Steven's talking about is that he also said that they had this camera footage. But who did I show you that announced it? Tony did. Who was the host of the chat of these content creators? Tony was. Ultimately, the buck stops with the PR. So I think it's great that Steven has come out and said that, and apologized and all of that. But, I don't really think that and maybe he's the one that shared it with Tony. I don't really know. But Tony should have vetted it. And by vetted, it means you go to law enforcement and you say, is this true? Is this not true? And if they're not willing to talk to the PR person, then Seth needs to find a PR person that can work with law enforcement. So this may mean getting somebody that doesn't have felonies for financial problems, right? Financial crimes. So you guys get the idea. Okay, so this guy, did say it on the live. He was on the panel and he, said to everybody to do their own investigating. So everybody did, and this is what they came back with. So, I'm not blaming this guy. He's already said that, that he's sorry. But we do have some problems, you guys. We do have some problems. I'm really concerned. I'm just going to tell you straight up. I'm really concerned. I was concerned. I wanted to, give the benefit of the doubt. And I just think that it's, really, really interesting. And let me just share this with you. So people have had different responses to this. And let me just show this to you. Okay. So this is was the TikTok is still being put out there. It's in a Find Sebastian Rogers public group that is being run by Tony Mathis. And so people, have some feelings about this. None of this makes sense. I do not believe this story. That's one. What's going on? I don't have TikTok. Can someone explain? So I just wanted to post it up there so you guys could see, well, this is the problem. This is the problem. This is what people are talking about. And you can see he's here on the panel making the claims. That's Stephen, the one who just apologized. But the host is Tony. The host is Tony. It's not Stephen. So I do think it's a problem. And I'm hearing now from other content creators that they're allowed in the chat, but they're not being allowed to comment in the chat. They're not being allowed to comment in this Facebook group. And I think that's a problem too. I think that, everybody should be allowed to have their say, whether you agree or you don't agree, unless somebody's being just really, really disruptive. And in that case, okay, well, that's a little bit different then. But Tony dropped some comments in there too. And I do want to just show this really quick. Let me grab this. So this is, I do want to bring attention to this. This is the tomorrow at 6 p.m. This is the prayer vigil. I will post a link to this in my reporter room Facebook group. If you type in Sebastian Rogers and reporter room, I'll post a link to the prayer vigil. It's at 6 p.m. East Tennessee time. Sorry. They have 2 time zones. So I think it's actually be 5 p.m. or 7 p.m. Eastern time. And they also have a ride for Sebastian prior to the prayer vigil. You can come out and ride your bikes for that. So I do think that, there are some good things happening. There's an email address started up too, but the misinformation is a problem. And I really do feel like if you have a PR person that cannot get accurate information from law enforcement and that law enforcement refuses to work with, then that is going to be a problem for you. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below. So I'm really concerned about who's involving themselves into this case. Is anybody getting scammed? Could anybody get scammed? Oh, reporter room. Let me just as additional. So this is not anything against Seth at all. This is more me feeling protective of Seth. And because I just know that when you are grieving and you are in this type of position, it is very easy to, have people come in and just say whatever they're going to say. And, Tony probably did look good on paper. He was handling the Caleb Harris case, but I just want to point out that, Caleb was never found. So maybe somebody with a track record that works with law enforcement. So come on in, you guys. Stephen claims he works with Tony. I don't know anything about that. I just know that Stephen came out and did apologize. Hey, Cirrus. I'm a professional journalist. For those of you that don't know, I am a journalist. Was verified as a journalist on Twitter prior to them selling the blue check marks. If you hover over my blue check mark on Twitter, you can clearly see that the date of when I was verified, it was before they started selling blue check marks. I'm also verified on Spoutable and Facebook. So I do try to provide professional information for you guys. Works on the ground and searches. Yeah, and I'm not impugning this TikToker. To me, I just feel like he's just coming up and saying whatever he's saying. He's not saying I'm the PR spokesperson for Seth Rogers, right? So I'm not impugning this guy. I'm not impugning this guy. His name is, I'm not even going to say his name because it doesn't matter. So I'm not impugning him. Hey, Leslie. DM says, I don't blame Seth, but he deserves a better team. I agree. I think that, and I think when you're, and to be fair to Seth, because I see a lot of people going after Seth, no. Seth has no experience doing anything like this, okay? He's not purporting to be a professional father of missing children, okay? He is a grieving father who is going through the worst time in his life, and he's just doing the best that he can. So this is in no way, I am trying to help Seth. And I think that one of the ways that we can help Seth is to encourage him to get professional people, credentialed people on his team. Okay, this doesn't mean everybody on Seth's team is not professional, doesn't mean everybody's not credentialed, but the fish rots from the head. And when you have the spokesperson coming on and saying what Tony has said and making out that this is true, and you're representing Seth Rogers and you're spreading misinformation to the point where Sumner County has to come back in and talk to Nick Barris and clear it up. It's just not the professional look that I think Seth is trying to get. Seth, serious, thank you so much. I love how Jessica backs up all the facts with source. I try to show you guys my sourcing. Thank you so much, you guys. Come on in, tell me where you're from. Drop your questions. Yeah, we're going to keep the chat classy, guys. And this is our head mod, for those of you that don't know. NJazz, and our other head mod is 6 Cents Amelia. I don't see her in here. So if you see wrenches, those are our mods. Thank you so much to all our mods. If you see check marks, those are our channel members. Thank you for all our channel members. If you see wrenches and mods, and then if you are a subscriber, thank you too, because we are growing this channel. Jersey says the case is really going to end up, well, we don't know that it's going to end up like the Summer Wells case. I know a lot of people are saying that, but we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. I still do believe there's an active investigation. So I think I would just like urge caution. Let's not go there yet. If we're like another few months out and we have nothing at all, then I will be ready to go. Here, Terry says PR would not make a big mistake like this. No, exactly. And this is where I think, and Seth, he's not professional at this. Is not his fault. It's not his fault. He's not a professional grieving father. He's just, and he may not have known, hey, there's a difference between somebody who's got a license like Chloe, who's a private investigator, or like Prayer Warrior, Heather and Tracy, that they have a license. There's going to be a difference between that and a PR person who has he needs a local public relations person, somebody who works with this TBI and works with this Sumner County Sheriff's Office. That would be his best choice. And somebody that does not have a criminal record, not to say that everybody doesn't deserve a second chance. Of course they do, but not at the expense of Sebastian. That's all I'm saying. Not at the expense of Sebastian. Cecilia says he did apologize. I just haven't seen it. Then that's possible. It's possible that he apologized and I just didn't see it. Cirrus says he definitely needs someone who is genuinely interested in his and Sebastian's well-being. Yes, I agree. Hey, Karen. Karen says, everyone, are there any searchers for Sebastian going on today? Yes, there are people searching for Sebastian. There's people passing out flyers. Bobby says, anything at this point is possible. Exactly. Leslie says, I agree, DM. He does think he's so stressed out. He's not thinking straight. Exactly. And then DM says, Jessica brings receipts. I love that about her channel. Thank you. Karen says she couldn't hear a thing. Can you hear? Everybody else can hear me, so I'm not really sure, Karen. You might have to check the volume on your level. Hey, Jody. Mama Bear says 100% likes down, guys. Please hit the thumbs up. But yeah, please give this a thumbs up. Let YouTube know we're doing a safe, good, wholesome show. Terry says Stephen lives in Hendersonville. Yeah, and he's a local guy. That's why I say I'm not putting any of this at Stephen's doorstep. Okay, that's not the problem. But as a PR person, it's your responsibility to discern credible information from not credible information. So that's why I said I don't blame Stephen. He's a guy with a drone. He's been out searching. He's boots on the ground. I just want to see Seth with a actual professional PR person. And, I think people would chip in on that. Good to see you, Karen. Yeah, it's a hot mess. It's a dumpster fire, Terry. You're right. Terry, this is our head mod, Edjaz. Welcome, everyone coming in. We're so glad that you're here. I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please, this is Brother Mike, one of our mods. Please don't do all caps in the chat. Cecilia says, I agree, Terry, it's a hot mess of a train wreck. And I don't want it to turn into that. It does not need to devolve into a train wreck. We already have enough stuff to sort out. We already have this bizarre timeline that I don't believe these bizarre mother and stepfather who are not out searching. Why? Why aren't they out searching? Don't you want to find Sebastian? Who leaves their house and goes camping in a camper when you have a missing child that could come home? What if he came home in the night and knocked on the door and they weren't there? Yeah, nobody wants to see this turn out as a Summer Wells case. I agree, Larry King. I was on that case, and that case just absolutely breaks my heart, the fact that we're here. But the only thing I can tell you to give some hope here is think about the Elizabeth Smart case, right? She was found months later. She could hear searchers calling her name, but she was too afraid to respond to the searcher. So I still have hope. Jersey says Seth had to know what was going on in the Proudfoot home. I think you mean there's no way that his mother wouldn't have told him what Sebastian told her. I have grandchildren and I would not have told. I don't know if he knew what was going on or not. I don't know. I don't think he did know everything. I mean, he said on the Pascal show that he just got the CPS records. And we were all just sitting there, hoping to see them, because I want to see more lies that have been told by this guy right here who claimed it was just a single CPS. It was, and that it was a teacher. And I don't even know if this is true. He claimed that a teacher reported him, Sebastian's teacher, and that when the CPS worker came over, they told Sebastian, no, don't report. Now, if that's true, that CPS worker should be fired. But I'm just going to say this. I don't know if anything that these two people have been purporting out. I don't know if any of it is true, you guys. I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions on this. Let me pull this up for you guys, because I'm not convinced that these two are giving us all the information. So the Peter Hyatt spoke out again. Let me just pull this down. Okay, so we're going to go through the red flags with Peter Hyatt. And he has multiple red flags on this case, because I do want this to get back to Sebastian Rogers. I wanted to address it because I'm hoping that we can people can fundraise and help Seth get a different person representing him as a PR person, because I think Seth deserves help, real help. So Peter Hyatt, can you guys see it okay? Nope, because I'm not sharing it. All right, let me grab this one. It says I'm sharing it, and it's because I didn't take this down. Okay.
Absolutely.
So let me take this Jersey's
nothing to
comment
do
down
with the Chris Proudfoot.
All right. There we go. Okay. So this is Peter Hyatt. He has a YouTube channel, but he's FBI. He trains law enforcement. He trains law enforcement on how to do statement analysis. And he put out a new video just a couple of days ago. So I just want to share a little bit of what he feels like the risk factors for Sebastian are, and then we're going to hear his assessment on it. I'm just going to do a quick overview. He feels like that the fact that Sebastian is special needs is a risk factor. He's noting the presence of a step parent or boyfriend as another risk factor. The second one is increasing the potential risk. 3, he says a custody dispute will be listed. And we know that there's custody issues. We don't know if there was a dispute or not, where Seth was going to take custody of Sebastian at the end of the summer. So there was definitely something in progress. Was there a dispute? I don't know. But we also know that there was a custody dispute between Chris Proudfoot and Nina Gomez regarding Faith. 4, specific issues with child may increase as well. 5, prior child protective services involvement is another risk factor. Well, wow. We know from Seth that there are multiple CPS calls to the Proudfoot home. Marital discord is another risk factor. Well, we know that the reason that Seth was going to take custody of Sebastian is why? Because Chris Proudfoot wasn't coming home for the whole month of February. We know Chris Proudfoot's track record with Nina Gomez gives us a little bit of insight into his personality, that he withholds himself. He withholds his emotional support. He may be withholding financial support. We don't know. But he wasn't coming home for the month of February. In my opinion, he was trying to force Katie to make a choice between him and Sebastian. And in my opinion, Katie chose Chris Proudfoot. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. But marital discourse is another risk factor. Well, I'm seeing all of these in this case. So behavioral red flags are initial silence, a coordinated 911 call. So we know that Katie and Chris did not come forward for over a week. I believe it was 8 days, 9 days when they first did their first interview. Now, most parents are jumping in front of the camera to advocate for their child. So the fact that there was none of that, we just got silence from Katie and Chris Proudfoot is a red flag. A coordinated 911 call. Stepfather who was not in the home at the time of the disappearance, was controlling the interview with law enforcement. And this was just the beginning. So let's listen in to Peter Hyatt on this. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, you will want to. He does a great job.
911 call. The stepfather, not in the home at the time of the disappearance, controlled this and then the subsequent interview. So this was a coordinated 911 call. And realistically, what should have been said was, sir, are you home? No, I'm several hours away. Okay, I'm going to just ask that the mother who was there answer my questions. We have a car on the way, so let me just get the information from her. She was there. And the first time he interrupts, you cut it off and say, ma'am, I'm going to call you right back, but I'd like to speak to just you. That's the biological mother. There should be no hesitation in her to give any information that is needed.
And I agree. I think the fact that she would not call them herself directly, that she had Chris Proudfoot called and he wasn't even in town, is a massive red flag. To me, it just shows coordination on the part of Chris and Katie Proudfoot. And so my question is, why? Why are these two working so hard to coordinate with each other? Why isn't their priority to find Sebastian?
Unless there's a reason not to. And I think that this is what statement analysis is able to show.
Unless there's a reason not to.
So this coordinated 911 call was inappropriate from our perspective, necessary from his stepfather's perspective. So the silence, the coordinated 911 call, and then controlling the interviews. This was something that we all saw, and it looked quite coordinated, and the language was coordinated, and that in the beginning, he wasn't allowing her to answer much. He was taking over. So she was silent as a biological mother for the first week, and then she's letting a non-biological parent do the talking. And there was things that were said while he was talking, and then subsequent interviews, of course, exploded that matter in this case. I need to know who I'm searching for. I need to know, what is he afraid of? What does he cling to? What is normal for him? Who were his friends? Who might he have gone to? Which direction might he have gone to? Would he get into the car of a stranger? These are things that needed to be known on day one.
So, and they weren't. Katie didn't come out to talk to anybody till she was basically forced to come out. And then we get this bizarre interview from Katie Proudfoot. Let me make sure I'm looking at the same thing you are, where we can look at their hands. They won't go on camera.
OUDFOOT.
So, I mean, first, just as parents, tell me what the last now over a week has been like for you two.
Horrible beyond words. This was an experience that I would have never dreamed would come. Honestly, I can't put words to how hard this has been and how much it hurts not knowing where my son is, where he's at, if he's okay. Just horrible is the best thing I can say.
Horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's such a weird interview, you guys. Just bizarre. Absolutely bizarre.
What about for you?
It's rough. I mean, we are on day 11, no answers. And the horrible things that people say just keep rolling in, regardless of taking time to consider the facts and, assumptions is what they're going off of. But I don't know, for us, we sit here and we wait, and hopefully we'll get an answer, or hopefully he walks through our door, which would be amazing.
I was going to say, how badly do you both want
That would be amazing, right? It would be so amazing. Except they're not home, right? They're not even there. So it would be amazing for him to walk through the door. But they're not home to open the door if he did come by, if he did go there.
Sebastian to just walk through that front door to get that call?
I'd give anything. In a heartbeat, I would give anything.
It's not measurable. Let's put it that way. There's no measurable. Anybody says, oh, it is. You've never sat in these shoes. You've never been in this situation. And I don't ever wish for people to be in this situation.
And what's Sebastian like? What's his personality like? What does he love to do?
He, for the most part, is happy. He likes to laugh and joke and tell you all about everything and then some. He loves games. He loves video games. He loves to play with his Legos. Even building things with me. We build little projects here and there, but he's always a character.
He's a character. I told you guys I thought she made a choice. I think she did make a choice. I'm not saying that she did anything physical to Sebastian, to be clear. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that something went on in that house. And we've heard how Chris Proudfoot sounds on other interviews. We've heard how he really, really sounds, how he really, really talks when he's not on camera, and what he's really, really like. And it just makes me wonder, with multiple CPS reports that Seth says he has, multiple, not one, what was really going on in that house.
Are there any like weird tendencies that he has that might be able to help people find him in this search?
I don't know how helpful to finding him, but he fidgets constantly. He loves shiny pennies, paper clips. He's always like, whenever we go to the grocery store, he always looks on the ground and looks under the register counter, and he's always looking for shiny pennies everywhere. Paper clips. He loves to bend them out of shape and play with them, fidget with them. He loves playgrounds. I mean, we've said it before, he likes fishing and things like that, but
Cats. Boy loves cats.
He does. He loves cats. It's his favorite animal. I don't know. He's a good kid.
There are no leads, nothing caught on video. Your son has been missing for 11 days now. How does that make you feel as parents?
I mean, I don't have words to describe how I'm feeling right now. I mean, I
think most people would be able to describe how they're feeling, unless you really don't have words to describe how you're feeling. I love the interviewer's facial expression on this, because she just let's look at this one though. I just want to go, sometimes you go back a little bit to move forward.
A 15-year-old who
Hold on. Let me get past this is Chronicles of Oliva.
We got up and, fun fact, I made breakfast that morning.
She's almost chipper there, right? Fun fact, I made breakfast that morning. Like she's really proud of herself. She made breakfast that morning. Did she? I mean, what, you know, it's really chipper.
We had a good time. We were laughing. We were joking. He talked to family on the phone during breakfast to brag. We went and picked up our niece.
Yes,
Yeah, I got a call and asked if I could go and pick her
So was Chris Proudfoot there or not there?
up, and I did. And so we went and did that. We went to BJ's. Had a good time there. He ate a colossal popcorn. Came home to put groceries away because we bought snacks because, you know, he's 15 and snacks. We went to the bowling alley. And then from there, we went to dinner.
So I don't know about you guys, but to me, this just sounds like the best day ever. The best day ever. The best day ever.
Came home. He took out the trash because that's his chore. He takes the can to the end of the driveway. About 9 o'clock, told him to go to bed. And he's come out of his room where he was playing. And he said, "All right, good night, Mama. Good night, puppies. I love you." And went to bed. He was doing something in his room because about an hour later I heard some noise and I was like, "I don't care what you're doing in there, but go to sleep." And about midnight I got up and I went to bed. And 6 o'clock I went to wake him up for school Monday morning. And that's when he went in here.
What was going through your mind at that point? Like, what were the feelings that you were feeling?
To censor myself. Holy freaking crap, this can't be happening. Where is my kid? Choice words were used. Like, you know, where the F is he, you know. I had looked through the house for him because it was typical for him to get up and come and rummage for snacks and things like that. And he likes to dip behind the, you know, walls and watch, you know, and then he comes out after I come back and he likes to scare me. But after I looked, and I mean, mind you, all of this took place in like 1 minute flat. But
she did all of that in 1 minute flat. She looked in the kitchen. She went through all the closets. She looked under everywhere he could be. Did she go outside and call for him? I don't hear anything about going outside either. If you didn't find him inside the home, then your next step would be go outside and start yelling, you know, Sebastian, 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 maybe knock on neighbors' doors. Has anybody, we haven't heard any reports of any of this type of thing happening.
I didn't see him in his room. I looked all over. I ran through the whole house. I looked out all the doors and windows and I was like hollering his name. And
so she's inside the house hollering his name, looking out the doors and the windows, but never went out the door, never ran around the house, never looked in the backyard. I mean, that's where what I would do, right? I would look in the vehicle too. I would go check the cars. I don't know, you guys, this something about this. So I want to go back to Peter Hyatt for a second. So now we just saw a little bit of that interview. That was courtesy of Chronicles of Oliva. And I want to go back to Peter Hyatt. Oh, let me check in with chat because I do want to be social. So sorry. I'm way behind on chat. Heather says, "Gosh, I wish he was found already. At least the drama would end. I would not have been a fan of either side's behavior, but as far as what I feel is most likely to have occurred, I say Katie knows." Thank you for sharing that, Heather. Karen says, "I know Chris has made remarks in the past like he was there." Yeah, he sounds like he was there. He sounds like he was there, right? Fun fact. Yeah, that was a bizarre, like almost chipper. Fun fact. I made breakfast. Like to me, she's saying that, I don't know. And again, yeah, the popcorn, the colossal popcorn. The best day ever. That's how Chloe characterized it on Web Sleuths Live, right? She asked Chris Proudfoot, point blank. Did you give Sebastian the best days ever? And he got all offended. But he wasn't there. 4N says, oh, don't get me started on TL. I don't know who TL is. Terry says, CP was not at home, was at work. Yeah, Chris Proudfoot, according to, now if you believe Katie's timeline, and I don't know if I do at this point. I don't know if we should believe Katie's timeline. Because according to her timeline, she last heard a thud at 10 p.m. and she went into his room at 6 a.m. But then she says she had to check the kitchen. But I've seen photos now of the interior of the house. So when she originally said that, it didn't set off any alarms. But if you look at photos of the house, you have to go through the kitchen to get to his room. So why would she have to go back? And then she says she did all this in 1 minute flat. 1 minute flat. She searched through the closet. She searched through the house. It's a fairly good sized house, right? Master bedroom, just a 3-bedroom, fairly big house with a garage, 2-car garage. She had her vehicle and her work vehicle. So she did all of this and didn't go outside and call for him. I've heard no reports from anybody that says that they saw Katie outside in the yard yelling for him. That would have been the next thing, not just looking out the doors and windows, but actually go out the door and just see, is he in the backyard somewhere or is he in the front? I would be calling for him and looking through, probably opened up the garage door and gone out that way, just looking for him, right? So Chris Proudfoot, according to the timeline that we've been given by Katie, and Chloe said he was at work at 5:15 a.m. and therefore, they were clearing him. But I just feel like we can't trust the timeline. We have to go by when was the last time that Sebastian was seen by someone independent of Katie Proudfoot. I'm not saying Katie's not telling the truth. I'm not saying that. I'm just sharing my opinion. But the last time that he was seen on camera, the last proof of life was at the Texas Roadhouse. Right? So that's around 6 p.m., not the 10 p.m. timeline that Katie has given us, that she last heard Sebastian around 10 p.m., that he answered her, said, yes, ma'am, when she told him to go to bed. So let's just go to 6 p.m. And then he's not reported missing until around 6:38, 6:40, somewhere in there. So 6 p.m. to 6:40 p.m., that's our window. So that's over 12 and a half hours. So in my opinion, that's more than enough time for Chris to have gone door to door. He knew the minutes in the Nancy Grayson interview. He said 3 hours and the exact minutes door to door. I do believe he knows the exact amount of time. And it would have been so easy to just simply take your cell phone and call Katie and get in the car. It is excruciating. Jim says she's trying hard to make hearsay. The Last Supper. Exactly. The Last Supper. They're both so strange. Yeah, they are odd. Ken says similar to when Letitia explained Gannon's last day. Yeah, best day ever. And when Chloe just tried to ask about that, that's all she wanted to do. She just wanted to ask. She just wanted to ask, was this the best day ever? And Chris was so offended. I think it's a legitimate question that deserves an answer. That leads me to believe this was planned in advance. I don't know. Tara says, when my daughter thought she lost her son, she was on the ground screaming. She couldn't even pull herself together enough to talk to the police. I had to handle everything. And I'm not saying Katie had to be on the ground screaming, but the fact that she did not go on camera for 8 days. And this wasn't until people just started literally shaming her to go on camera. Jody says justice for Sebastian. Absolutely. Let's continue on with Peter Hyatt. I think he did a really good job on this.
They weren't. I'm looking at something with which I listed as 6 risk factors of a missing 15-year-old. Okay. So when I look at the red flags within the language, what's often missed, and perhaps that's my fault for not making the context clear or pressing it as I should have in the videos. It's easier to have someone else here talking or answering questions and that sort of thing. But the context is key. So, for example, I'm going to ask you, and I asked this question of you. Think of your answer.
I'm going to just summarize this really quickly and get to the next point, because I do think he has some really valuable things to say. But what he basically says is context is key. What did you do this morning? You just normally would say, I listened to some music, I drank some coffee, I went for a walk. But the new context in a DV report, you're asked, what did you do this morning? And in a missing child case, as well as a criminal case statements, the inclusion of a phone call is of vital importance to the subject speaker. It's part of what happened. And he thought it was interesting that I love you was included in the what happened part of the statement. He thought that was a red flag. And we talked about this before. So he says in any missing child, as well as a criminal case statement, the inclusion of a phone call is of vital importance to the subject speaker. It's part of what happened. So stepfather had a wonderful relationship with bio dad. This is what Chris Proudfoot and Katie Proudfoot told us in the initial interview. They talked about what a great relationship they had with Seth Rogers. Of course, that turned out to be untrue. We also heard from Peter Hyatt before the language of belligerency. He called physicality, false sense of machismo, inviting challenges, what this may have meant to Sebastian. What did that mean to Sebastian? Because I don't think we should go by Katie's timeline anymore. I think that and by opening up the timeline, in my opinion, that takes away the fact that Chris Proudfoot says he has an alibi. He was at work at 5:15 a.m. Okay. But if we didn't see Sebastian until around 6 p.m. on the 25th, the fact that you were at work at 5:15 a.m. the following day doesn't mean anything, in my opinion.
He then went to a false sense of machismo, inviting challenges. Does he say that this guy is lacking in masculinity? Otherwise, he wouldn't be putting up this wild front there.
And I just want to direct you back to the recording that the lab put out of Chris Proudfoot of how he was talking to Heather, who was one of the private investigators that was working for Seth Rogers at the time, how he really talks, inviting challenges, and if this is how he's talking to Heather, who's a licensed private investigator, when he's not on camera, right? And this is how awful he talks. Then how was he talking to Sebastian? Let's listen to Peter Hyatt on this.
And what I sadly concluded, and I don't know if this is true, but it is my opinion, that I think one of the most difficult things that Sebastian faced under this man's domain wasn't the boasting and bragging of the discipline, while he's still missing, of course. I think he probably was ridiculed in his masculinity by stepfather, because this is he revealed who he is. So abusive, and someone that has the ability to go through a number of marriages and give marital advice out. Someone who's giving advice on how to discipline a child while a child is missing. And I think back to the incontinence of the child, of the victim, and the false bravado of the stepfather, who was in charge of discipline and bragged about his discipline. And since then I've heard, I haven't seen him, but I've heard he's gone on to all sorts of bizarre things in interviews and that sort of thing. I think my opinion is stepfather was insisting, put him out.
And I agree with that assessment. I think Katie was being asked to make a choice, which is why I did a video that was just titled The Choice. I think she was being asked to make a choice between Sebastian and incident and Chris. I think she had to make a choice. And I think she chose Chris. And I think she does know more than what she's telling us. I'm not saying that she knows exactly what happened to him. I'm not saying she did anything to him, but something sent Sebastian out of that house that night with bare feet, with no coat, with no keys, and without his cell phone. So did she send him out of the house? Did they have an argument? Was there some kind of an altercation? Sebastian would have been very overstimulated. Or was he given the best day ever? Was he given the best day ever? And this is what we saw.
Every day is harder than the last. I mean, we're out, we're looking, we're trying to make sure that everyone stays looking and doesn't let his face fall to the bottom of a feed or get covered by some other nonsense. I mean, we just want our boy home.
But they're not home, are they? They didn't search. Have you seen Katie or Chris? Any video, any clips, any images of them out searching or posting flyers? They can't, right? Because they're not even in the state. They packed up, which again, this is very suspicious. The fact that they packed up and went camping. Just very, very suspicious.
When you walked in Monday morning and didn't see Sebastian in his room, what was your gut reaction?
My very first reaction was, oh, he got up and got breakfast. But when I realized he actually wasn't in the house, I've never experienced sheer panic in the way that I did. And basically for every minute since that, not knowing where your child is a pain that
so listen to her wording here. She's not saying not knowing where my child is causing me pain. She says not knowing where your child is a pain. Listen to the language. Not knowing where your child is, not her child, not Sebastian. Not knowing where your child is a pain. It almost sounds like she's replaying the script. And is this why she wouldn't go on camera?
Your child is a pain that I've never known pain like this before.
And walk me through the events that happened,
And if she did make a choice, I believe there was some pain. But let's hear the events.
From Sunday leading up to Monday when you didn't see him that morning.
Sunday, we were out and about. We had a really good day. We were out doing our thing, running around. We had dinner that evening. And when we came home, we had a pretty good evening together as well. He was playing right up until bedtime and then some. I let him stay up a little late. And when I told him to go to bed, he's like, I love you, Mom. I love you, puppies. And he went to bed.
Did she say, I love you back? Or was Sebastian being scapegoated in this house? We heard from neighbors that Chris Proudfoot was spraying Sebastian with a power sprayer. That would have stung. It would have hurt at the very, very least. And then he told Katie to come get her R, using the R word in regards to Sebastian. But what I have not heard in that account is that Katie stood up for Sebastian and said, "Don't talk to my son like that. Don't spray him with it. I haven't heard anything like that. Not a word." And it makes me wonder if it wasn't just Chris Proudfoot scapegoating Sebastian, but was Katie chiming in just like she did when Chris Proudfoot was being verbally in that recorded interview that the lab played, verbally and she's in the background, not saying stop, not trying to settle him down. She's in the background egging him on.
And I went to bed around midnight. Everything seemed fine. And when I went to wake him up for school, that's when I couldn't find him. He wasn't in his room, and he wasn't in the house. And that's when I panicked.
And when you panicked, what did you do?
First thing I did was call my husband, and I said, "He's not here." My husband said, "What do you mean he's not here?" I said, "He's not in the house." And he said, immediately just started, "Did you check here? Did you check there? Did you look here?" And I ran through the house. And at that point I was...
Okay, so now we have a slightly different tale. In the interview that she did with Chronicles of Oliva, she says she did all this before she called Chris Proudfoot. Now she's saying she called Chris Proudfoot and he's directing her to look here, look there. He's telling her what to do. He's telling her what to do, right? So let me back it up. Just want you guys to hear it for yourself.
He's not in the house. And he said, immediately just started, "Did you check here? Did you check there? Did you look here?" And
so before she looked out the window, she looked at the doors, she ran around in a minute flat, which I call BS on that it was a minute flat. She didn't go out and shout for him or look for him in the yard. She didn't go look in the vehicles for him. And then she got in the car, and that's when she called Chris Proudfoot on the first interview. Now on this one, she's on the phone with him while she's inside the house. It's a different story, you guys. It's a different story.
And that's when I panicked.
And when you panicked, what did you do?
First thing I did was call my husband, and I said, "He's not here." My husband said, "What do you mean he's not here?" I said, "He's not in the house."
So before she checked the kitchen, which she would have already walked through to get to Sebastian's room, now the first thing she does is she calls Chris. She's in a panic, but she hasn't even, if your child, if you went in your son's room and he wasn't there and he's 15 years old, I wouldn't just immediately go into a panic. Would you? You might look, say, "Hey, are you in the bathroom?" Or, breakfast. I would probably, if I was making breakfast, because she was all chipper that she had made breakfast that morning, believe it or not.
And he said, immediately just started, "Did you check here? Did you check there? Did you look here?" And I ran through the house. And at that point I was hysterical, for lack of a word. And
why is she hysterical at this point? She hasn't looked outside. And her story has now changed. Her story has now changed. We know she called Chris Proudfoot right after she goes in the room. Why is she hysterical already? You wouldn't be hysterical at that point. I wouldn't be. It's a 15-year-old. Unless you knew what that thud was. If we can even believe that. Let's continue on together, shall we? Let's continue on.
We three-wayed the police. And I'm within minutes they were here. I couldn't tell you exactly how long. I know it was fast. And we haven't found him.
When I got the phone call that he was missing, Like she said, we asked questions like, where's he at? Check this, check that. And then we called the sheriff's department. I called the sheriff's department. I stayed on the
And we go back to Peter Hyatt. Why is Chris calling the sheriff's department? Why isn't Katie calling the sheriff's department? And let's also consider what Seth got. He got this bizarre message from Chris Proudfoot telling him not to be mad, but Sebastian's, or don't be upset. Don't be upset, but Sebastian's missing. That's just a really weird way. Don't be upset. Of course he's going to be upset.
phone pretty much most of the time. And then while I was at work, I asked for a relief, got a relief, got in my truck from Memphis and made my way to Nashville.
Wanted to make sure everybody knew. He was in Memphis and made his way to Nashville. Just wanted to get that alibi in there. I love this interviewer, by the way. I just think she's doing such a great job. This is Katilin Miller from Fox 17 out of Nashville. She does such a good job. It's such a shame that she was unable to get them on camera. And I think, again, it's so suspicious that they're not going on camera. They're refusing to go on camera. And then Katie's talking about how you would feel, not how she felt, how you would feel. And then the story changed from the Chronicles of Oliva interview to this interview. Suddenly, now Chris Proudfoot's on the phone with her, telling her where to search. I believe that's very possible. But why is she going into a panic as soon as she hears that Sebastian is missing? Or as soon as she doesn't see him in his room? Sorry, I misphrased that. Why is she going into a panic as soon as he's 15? Maybe he's in the bathroom. Maybe he, went outside with one of the dogs. And I hear the dogs alerting in the background, so it's very hard to believe that they didn't alert that night. But let's continue on.
And that was, I guess, Monday?
The morning that he was missing, yes.
Okay. And so what was your reaction when you got that call from your wife that Sebastian was missing?
Initially, I was like, oh, he's goofing around again. Here we go. He's like hiding. And then when we talked about the places to check and he's not there, I was like, okay, stop. Instantly.
So he confirms he's on the phone with her while she's in the house.
Call the police. Instantly.
Now, before, she was out driving around and she drove up to the school. And then that's when she told Chris and they called the police. Well, he called the police. She didn't.
Black and white kind of guy.
And to your knowledge, he didn't take shoes with him, right? He locked the door on his way out. Or I guess, what are some of the things that you think he did as he left?
We checked for all of his shoes and none of them are missing. The door was locked.
And what was there some discrepancy as to what he...
She very carefully parsed that answer. This just is bothering me so much. Why aren't you on camera? Why won't you come on camera? Why are you massaging Chris? Again, did Katie make a choice?
The door was locked.
And what was there some discrepancy as to what he was wearing when he went to bed, or what was he last seen wearing? What was he wearing to bed that night?
When he went to bed, he was wearing black sweatpants with white stripes down the side. And he had on a black long sleeve black shirt with a print on the front. I'm pretty sure it was one of his
like Star Wars or Halloween or
even Minecraft.
Yeah.
But Chris, you weren't home. How do you know what was on the front? Why are you chiming in here? You weren't home. Is it because you feel like Katie needs help to stick to her script? I don't know, you guys. I love the interviewer here. I think she did a really, really good job with this. But we've already found discrepancies between the first telling and the second, which is why I like to go back and relook at things after we know more. Right?
And on the front, I'm pretty sure it was one of his
like Star
like-
Wars or Halloween or
even Minecraft.
yeah,
Those
there
are
you
the
go.
three
'Cause
main
that's
things.
the three things that he's majority is on his clothes.
Yeah.
So did she not see him when he went and got in bed? Because I thought he said, "I love you and I love the doggies." And I want to know what mother puts a 15-year-old to bed. Do you tuck your 15-year-old in? Because I don't. But Chris is chiming in here. I think there's a reason.
Boy has his flavors.
And obviously you guys are going through the unimaginable and then, getting a lot of like the kickback that you've seen on social media. I mean, how much worse has that made it for you two to go through something like this?
Honestly, we stopped looking at it. There's a lot of terrible people in this world, and I don't want to waste energy on any of that. I want the focus on finding our son.
Now we know that's not true. We know that's not true because Chris prank phone called posing as Billy Bob Thornton. Chris has appeared on multiple YouTuber channels. We know that's not true. We know they're watching very, very closely. So that's not true. Another lie.
The facts are the facts. I mean, the police know the facts, and all I ask of anyone is, if they're able and willing, is to help find him, help spread his flyer, help look for him, call in if you know anything or see anything.
So she wants everybody to help look for him. Help who? Not you, Katie, right? Not help Katie and Chris because they're not looking. They're not passing out flyers. She had to accompany her husband to work because Katie made her choice, in my opinion. She made her choice.
But we just ask that people focus on finding Sebastian.
And he's never done anything like that before, right? Just kind of walked out of the house.
He's not a runner. This is not normal for him to run away. He's not a runner.
And any places, I guess, I know you guys have been told to stay in the house, right? Just in case he comes home.
We are doing what we've been asked to do by the law enforcement agencies and everybody involved.
He doesn't want to answer that. Of course, they were asked to be at home. Nobody from law enforcement told them to go to a different state and go camping in a different state and not be home.
I am not going to divulge anything more than that.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to ask, I guess, next is, if you were to go out and search right now, if people want to help search, what types of places would you guys look at that he could maybe be at?
Anywhere and everywhere. At this point,
It's been 11 days. He could be anywhere.
yeah, they've searched the woods, they've searched parks, they've searched creeks, they've searched, at this point, anything and everything.
Anywhere that he
please
could
search.
be staying out of the weather or getting food, or, I mean, honestly, at this point, he could genuinely be anywhere.
That's not helpful, is it? That's not helpful. Because what she's trying to say is, well, she could have said he's attracted to water. He likes to do this. He likes to do that. Instead, it's just this broad anywhere and everywhere. But we're not going to help with the search. Anywhere and everywhere. We're not going to pass out flyers. Anywhere and everywhere. But we're not going to attend the prayer vigils. Anywhere and everywhere. We're not even going to stay in the house in case he comes home.
How hopeful are you two that he will come home?
I will never give up hope on finding my child.
Optimism is at its highest,
Our-
regardless.
Optimism is at its highest. Not I feel optimistic or I think. Optimism is at its highest. Listen to these answers. This is a very
At this
straightforward
point, he
question.
could genuinely be anywhere.
Anywhere. He could
How
be.
hopeful are you two that he will come home?
I will never give up hope on finding my child.
Optimism is at its highest,
Our-
regardless.
Our son is out there. We're going to find him.
And now just, publicly, like,
Our son is out there. We're going to find him, but we're not going to look. We're not going to search. We're not going to pass out flyers. We're not going to let dogs on the property. I'm just going to sit here and massage.
obviously
Chris
police
Proudfoot.
are now investigating a landfill. People are speaking out about that. What are your thoughts about that?
Everybody has an opinion and their assumptions, and they are entitled to those. But as I've stated before, all we've asked people to do is to look at the facts, not what everybody's putting out there. If they have questions, call the law enforcement agencies, and they'll give you whatever they can give you. But the assumptions are just that. They are an assumption.
Well, what are the facts, though? I guess that's my question. What are the facts? So I want to talk a little bit about the psychology of scapegoating and how this might have impacted Sebastian in the house. Something set him running out of the house that night, if you believe that that's what happened. Or was it something worse? Because we've heard about Chris Proudfoot spraying Sebastian with a power sprayer. That sounds like it would, at the very least, sting. It would not be a pleasant experience. It was unkind. And then he told Katie to come get her R. Soul Jewel said, wouldn't you check on your children before you go to bed? I mean, really, if I heard a noise, I'd be there. I don't know. I mean, he's 15, so I don't know if she would have or wouldn't have, but she didn't. If you want to believe this version of events, is there a reason that there had to be a noise at 10 p.m.? Linda says, choice words. I mean, Chris Proudfoot uses very liberally. Yeah, exactly. Only believe the facts. Okay, so but what are the facts? I guess, what are the facts? Because I've already seen discrepancies. Now we're finding out in this interview that Katilin did that Chris was on the phone when Katie was searching for Sebastian. Why is she calling him in a panic when a 15-year-old just isn't in his room? I would probably look around for 15 or 20 minutes. After 15 or 20 minutes, if I'd called outside, I didn't see him, I looked in my vehicles, and I just couldn't find him anywhere inside the house or outside the house, then I would probably start to panic. And I would probably get into my car, maybe drive up to the school or go knock on neighbors' doors and see if anybody had seen him. But she's calling Chris Proudfoot, according to this version of events, which is really different than what she told Olivia in the other interview, right? In this version of events, she's calling Chris Proudfoot right out of the gate. Right out of the gate. Karen says, that's what moms do. Yeah. She says, where's the sadness? I'd be crazy if my parents act like that. There is no affect from her. I have not seen her shed a tear. This is why it reminds me so much of Leilani Simon with Quentin. He's alive somewhere. Of course, we know that's a lie. Susan Smith. Sharon's like, oh, like what was the question? Heather said, if my child was missing, no matter the age, it would take the use of medication for me to sit still no matter what. I doubt I'd be making much sense out of shock, confusion, and fear. Yep. And I would be on camera. And we just get this weird close-up of her just massaging his hands. Again, I just feel like she made her choice. She made her choice every time. She made her choice every single time. Every time when he got sprayed with a water hose, she didn't advocate for him. She made her choice. When he called him the R word, she didn't advocate for him. She made her choice. When the belt incident happened, she didn't advocate for him. She made her choice. She made her choice every single time. When CPS came to the house, we hear what Chris says, which is that it's not true. And the CPS told Sebastian, if this is true, the CPS worker should be removed from their job. If that this was a false report, again, Katie made her choice. She chose Chris Proudfoot every single time. Every single time, Katie made her choice. She chose Chris Proudfoot over Sebastian every single time. And we don't even know what the other CPS cases are. We don't even know. So let's talk a little bit about the scapegoating psychology, because I bet some of you guys are familiar with this dynamic, right? Where there's one person in the household that the scapegoaters make a villain. So they have to create a villain so they can have this. Let me grab a different one. This one's okay, but it's not as good as this one. I think is better. Okay. So let's talk about scapegoating. So it's a analysis of V and aggression in which people who have are undergoing negative experiences such as failure or A by others, blame an individual or group for their experience. Scapegoating can take place between individuals, between an individual and a group, between a group and an individual, and between groups, right? I think this picture says it all. And this is what I feel like was happening to Sebastian in that house. Because I've never heard one thing where Katie took up for her son. So it's something that's gone on through history. I bet some of you guys have experienced it. So it's a way to analyze negative experiences in terms of blaming an innocent individual or group for the event. And the one doing the scapegoating can then use the mistreatment of the scapegoat as an outlet for their own frustrations and hostilities. And yes, I do believe Chris Proudfoot, in my opinion, is a hostile man. And in my opinion, Katie not only doesn't defend innocent people, she eggs him on. Scapegoating is a way to analyze negative experiences in terms of blaming an innocent individual or group for the event. The one doing the scapegoating can then use the mistreatment for their own means. So let's talk about Durkheim's scapegoat theory. This was a theory believed that when a particular event or any misfortune that causes the feeling of disquiet, and disquiet is just a fancy way of saying being uncomfortable, and fear occurs, both the individual and society are threatened with disintegration. They resort to a specific set of rituals, and these include blame, sacrifice, and scapegoating. What happened to Sebastian? Blame, sacrifice, and scapegoating. So there's 4 different types. One is a one-to-one phenomenon, where one person blames another for something that they did. This often happens among children who blame a sibling or friends for something that they did, to a way of avoiding shame or disappointing their parents. But it can be far more nefarious than that. It can be family members using displaced hostility. And in my opinion, Chris Proudfoot is a very hostile man. And maybe Katie is too. Just because she's sweet and subservient to Chris Proudfoot doesn't mean she's not mean. My experience with people who live with other mean people, it doesn't set off red flags for them, because they're mean also. What was going on in that house? So I know one thing that wasn't going on, and that was Katie choosing Sebastian. She was willing to give Sebastian up so she could bring in a stepchild, Faith. She was willing to give Sebastian to Seth. Bye. And replace him with Faith. Sociologists have used the idea of displaced aggression to describe the tendency to scapegoat. For example, a woman who just had a fight with her boyfriend may kick the dog, and the dog becomes the scapegoat and pays the price for the argument. So it's not directed toward the boyfriend, but toward the acceptable target who cannot retaliate or argue back. So now we have a special needs child, right? We have a special needs child.
Proudfoot claims he did it because Sebastian.
We have a special needs child that cannot argue, that cannot stand up for himself. And we have a mother that's not doing any of those things, not defending him. Was she egging Chris on like she was in the background in that phone call that the lab played? Was she egging him on? Mama Bear says, why turn to Chris for validation on what she and Sebastian did when he wasn't even there? Yeah, great question. To me, it's in my opinion, we got to stick with our script here. Diane, and it's like, yeah, more like, where did you hide him? Ren says, didn't say garage, right? Nope, I never heard her say she looked in the garage. I'm not saying she didn't, but she never said that she didn't. And she originally said she didn't call Chris till after she had searched the house, right? In a minute flat. But now in the second version, and I believe this is true, we find out that he was on the phone, directing her on where to search. Why is he directing all of this? What's really going on here, you guys? I think the timeline needs to be questioned. Karen says it's normal to totally freak out. Yeah, it is. Jackie says, what if Mom and Chris didn't do anything? How would you feel having persecuted those people based on notions? I wouldn't. Fair point. But do you think Sebastian ran out of the house with no shoes on in the cold in February? If absolutely nothing was going on in the house? If nothing is going on, why is CPS at the house multiple times? If they're so innocent, why is the story changing? And I don't mean to like single you out on this, Jackie. I'm just, you asked me a question. So how would I feel? I wouldn't have left my house. I would have been on camera. I wouldn't be deferring to somebody who wasn't there. I wouldn't let somebody call my child the R word. I wouldn't let someone spray my child with a power sprayer. I wouldn't give up my child for a stepchild or to save my marriage. So Linda thinks it feels rehearsed. Heather says, in my opinion, it feels like a parent who already knows their child's location. The fact that they left the house is really weird. Leslie says, my son didn't come home from school when he was 13. I called the police and went looking for him. He would always call me if he was going to a friend's house. Yeah. Allison says, I honestly feel sick inside when I listen to her. I think there's a reason that the alarm bells are going off with these two people. And I'm not saying they have to be perfect or anything like that, but to not get on camera, red flag. To move out, red flag. Changing stories of when you called Chris Proudfoot, red flag. Adding the thud in at 10 p.m., red flag. So many red flags. And then the risk factors, trouble in the marriage, willing to give him over to Seth, having the best day ever. Marcia says she did everything, made breakfast. He told her he loves her. She's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely a brilliant day. Katie, you know what happened. Hey, Wicked. Good to see you. Tara says, this mother is weird. My grandson was playing hide and seek and got scared when he seen the police. We had the entire neighborhood looking for him, and the police found him in the bathroom. Plus, who has ever heard of someone three-way calling law enforcement? Not me, not even in the 90s. Exactly. Heather's right. Why didn't she call law enforcement? Why, in her first telling of the tale, did she look for a minute flat and then panic? And then got in the car, and that's when she called Chris Proudfoot. But in her second telling of the tale, she looks in his room and panics. Why is she panicking then? He's 15. Maybe he went to the bathroom. Maybe he went outside. Maybe he took one of the dogs out. In the second telling of the story, Chris Proudfoot's on the phone while she's panicking and running around the house. Thank you so much, Unjaz. Sarah says, absolutely right. I just got the feeling immediately that she knew and that Chris was there. I'm not saying he was there or wasn't there, but boy, he sure was anxious to tell that interviewer he was not there. Alibi building. That was more important than getting Sebastian's name out there, in my opinion. More important than searching is reputation building, in my opinion. He's gone on shows, posed as Billy Bob Thornton's Sling Blade character to go on shows. That was also a special needs person, right? To prank someone, because that's absolutely hilarious when he calls Sebastian his son, the son he was willing to give away so he could have faith. What did Sebastian ever do? Sebastian just wanted to live. He just wanted to be safe. He just wanted to be happy. I heard that Katie is back at her house. I've heard she is, and then I heard that she isn't. But if she is, that would be great. But the fact that she disappeared for weeks and weeks is still a problem. And I'm not saying she did anything, but it's weird. It's a red flag. And I think at this point, everything needs to be considered, including that timeline. Because the last proof of life that we have is Sebastian on camera at the Texas Roadhouse, which was around 6 p.m. on the 25th. So that gives us from 6 p.m.-ish on the 25th until 6:38 a.m. the following day when law enforcement's called. That's a much bigger gap than the 10 p.m., right? When did she call Chris Proudfoot? Is it the first version? Or is it the second version? Or did she call him twice? Maybe I'm misunderstanding the whole thing. Levitt said, I heard that too. I don't know for sure. Barb says, C says she parked in the garage. No one knows who was in that house. I wonder if she always parks in the garage. Leslie thinks Chris Proudfoot was there. By having that timeline, again, I'm not saying he did anything that night, but think about how Sebastian would have felt living with this man. We've heard him, how he talks. We've heard how he talks. We've heard how he is. What must it have been like for a special needs 15-year-old to be under the roof with this man, with a mother who's not advocating for you, who's not standing up for you, who's not protecting you, who's instead making her choice. I think Katie made her choice so many times. And I just wonder, did something send Sebastian running out of the house that night? Was the door locked behind him? Was something said, don't come back? And then who would move out if you really believe that you have Sebastian coming home? What mother? Tell me out there if you would leave your house. Because I can tell you that for most of the women that I've talked to, a crowbar, nothing would get them out of that house. Lolo says, hey Lolo, I hope heartily believe that Chris was there, even if they say not I believe he was there. DM says, I'm not convinced Katie Proudfoot's timeline is when she said. No, I think it all needs to be questioned. Sierra says, I've always said that the 3-hour call is the most significant thing in my opinion. And they aren't honeymooners who talks for 3 hours. I think it is significant. I agree. Hey, Cece. Cece says, Katie says she made breakfast. Is that like she thinks that's special? Because, yeah, lots of parents, moms and dads, make breakfast. And what does that mean? Making breakfast? That, he's 15. Does that mean heating up some oatmeal? I mean, it doesn't matter. But she was like so proud of herself for that. Again, best day ever. Best day ever. Soul says, I feel like the story is so vague. Lolo says, so wholeheartedly believe Chris was home. Yeah. A lot of people feel that way. I don't know if he was there or not there, but boy, he was certainly most interested in making sure that interviewer knew that he wasn't there, right? That was his priority. Diana says, there's no way she could do that in 1 minute. No, not a minute flat. I agree with you, Diana. There's no way she could do all the searching that she said that he did. And she said he liked to pop out and surprise her. So again, why would you be immediately in a panic calling Chris Proudfoot? That's the second version that we've heard, that she called him from inside the house. That's why I wanted to go back through the old interviews. Jackie says she knows her child where he'd be. Cursory search. Yep. Sarah says, do you think he may not have even made it home after the restaurant? I don't know. I have no idea if he made it home or didn't make it home. I have no idea. All I know is that something sent him out into the night that night without shoes, without a coat. She doesn't even know what pajama top he had on. She's not sure, but she put him to bed. She remembers he said, I love you to her. Did she say it back? I just want to know. Katie, did you say it back? Because I didn't hear that part of it. Sometimes what somebody doesn't say is just as interesting as what someone does say. Is there a chance that the lead detective is lying to Nick Barris because Craddock didn't even tell Barris about the photo in North Carolina for 2 days when we all knew? I don't think they're lying about this. I guess anything is a chance. Anything could be a chance, right? I mean, there's a chance that aliens came by and picked up Sebastian, I guess, if we want to phrase it that way. And I am not, impugning you, Kat. I know you're just asking me a question. I don't think that Nick Barris addressed it. Didn't he? Addressed it. He said normally when law enforcement is going to not tell him something, they will simply say no comment. They don't normally lie to him. So I don't think they were lying. When we didn't know about the photo of North Carolina photo, law enforcement didn't come out and say it was the photo. They didn't come out and say it wasn't the photo. While they were trying to figure out whether it was or wasn't, they were quiet. They just did their work. So normally, Nick Barris says they will just simply say no comment. I believe him. This is a local journalist who has contacts with the Sumner County Sheriff's Office. Great question, by the way. Great question, Kat. Jim says he was condemned giving him his last meal. I don't know. But it is very, very weird. No evidence. Nope. No evidence. That's true. Not yet. Not yet. But I do think that, something's wrong. Something is wrong. No shoes, but he had a flashlight with him. Mike says, I always thought the timeline was wrong. DM says, Jessica, when you're looking for your child, you are screaming their name like a maniac. Exactly. We haven't heard any reports that she was outside from even her own self, that she went outside and called for him. that she looked in the garage, that she looked in the car. Instead, she's on the phone. The first version, she calls Chris Proudfoot from the car and he calls sheriff's office. That's another red flag. Why is the stepfather who's not there calling law enforcement? Elmer says, has anyone looked up the NamUs map on Sebastian? I don't know what that means. You'll have to clarify for me, Elmer. I'm sorry. Marcia says, Chris was at his mom's house. In my opinion, I'm telling you, I would have been screaming and running to my neighbors to find out if they'd seen him. Yeah, we haven't had one neighbor come out. If anything, we've had neighbors come out to say she was only searching for about 8 minutes in the car. That leaves another gap, right? Another gap in time. Terry says, Katie Proudfoot says she was studying and was on the phone during that time with Chris Proudfoot. Yep. Heather says, oh, dang, that is like Letitia. Cece says, they're the only house that had no lights on. They pre-planned it. I don't know if they pre-planned it. I don't know. But for those of you that are like wondering, Letitia Stock, let me just tell you what happened on that. Just for those of you that are like, what are they talking about? Okay. Can you guys see this? Nope. So I need to take this down. Okay. Let me add this one in. All right. So let's talk about what happened with Gannon. So Gannon was reported missing by his stepmother on January 27th of 2022. She told the El Paso County Sheriff's Office that he left home between 3:15 p.m. and 4 p.m. to walk to a friend's house, but never returned. The initial press release described his disappearance as a juvenile runaway. However, 3 days later, the sheriff's office reclassified his case as a missing or endangered person, citing new information. So that's what Sebastian was also reclassified, right? The search involved thousands of hours of investigation, hundreds of tips from the public, the FBI Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and the Colorado Springs Police Department assisted the sheriff's office in the search for Gannon. And search teams used drones, dogs, horses, helicopters, and divers to comb through various areas of interest. And Gannon's biological parents made emotional pleas for his safe return. So how did we get to Letitia? Letitia did away with Gannon in his own bedroom on the day that he went missing. I'm going to watch my words. She did something using sharp cutlery 18 times. And then that wasn't enough because she took out and she shot him. Then she cleaned up everything, disposed of him in a suitcase, and lied to law enforcement about her whereabouts and the activities on that day and afterward. She claimed that Gannon was sick and stayed home from school that day and drove to various places with him throughout the day. Surveillance footage from a neighbor showed that she had left the house with Gannon in her truck at 10:15 a.m., and investigators believe that she returned with him around 2:19. Gannon was found on March 17th of 2020 by a maintenance worker under the Escambia Bay Bridge in Florida. He went missing in El Paso, was found in Florida, more than 1,300 miles away from his home. Katie Proudfoot, he could be anywhere. The COD was determined to be blunt force trauma, sharp force injuries, and a gunshot wound. Investigators believe that Letitia transported his body to Florida, driving there in a rented van after initially dumping him in a remote location of Colorado Springs, and then she went back later and got him. So that is what happened with her. And this is her. Let me grab this so you can see who I'm talking about. That is her, the stepmother. So when people are talking about Letitia Stock and why this reminds them of that, this is who they're talking about. Yeah, the whole thing is really, really sad. And I don't know. I don't know what happened. but I do think that things aren't adding up. And I do have concerns, and I see a lot of red flags in this case. And I do think we need to rethink the timeline. I do want to say thank you to George Brown and Jazz Energy Shots, Angry Muns, Not So Saintly, and Sasha Angel for being a producer on the show. I'm not ending the show. I just want to say thank you before we get too far into it. Oh, it looks like I did not. Let me grab this. So I have uploaded. Let me try this one more time. There we go. Okay. We're not done, but I just do want to say a quick thank you. So I think that all of this needs to be considered. I think we do need to rethink the timeline. Do you believe Katie Proudfoot's timeline? Are you watching closely? Think about that first interaction between Seth and Chris Proudfoot after Sebastian disappeared. And Chris Proudfoot reportedly reached out to Seth and texted him not to be upset, but his son was missing. Such a bizarre thing to say to Seth. We've still not heard the sheriff's call from Chris and Katie Proudfoot. Did he manage to circumvent their recording of the call by doing a three-way call? The other thing we haven't seen is the body cam footage of when law enforcement first responded to Katie Proudfoot, because I think it would be really helpful to see that initial interview that the police officers did with Katie Proudfoot. But we haven't seen it yet. I do also want to say thank you to our channel members. If you would like to have your name appear just like this in all of my videos and live streams, consider hitting the join button, which is next to the subscribe button. But subscribing also helps me a lot. It's free and it helps me a lot with the algorithm. So consider joining the Reporter Room family. We also have a great Facebook group. If you type in Reporter Room and Sebastian Rogers, it should pop up on Facebook. If you want to come hang out with us. So those are our channel members, and super sticker thanks for everybody who's done PayPal and super stickers and gifted channel memberships. Thank you so much, you guys. All right, so let's get back to this, because I do think that I want to talk more about this scapegoating in a family specifically, because again, I feel like there was a choice made, and the choice was made by Katie. So what does it mean to be the family scapegoat? I bet there are some people in here who can tell me this. We thought this dynamic was in play during the Summer Wells case also, that there was a scapegoating, right? So how are scapegoats chosen? It can be really random. It could be birth order, gender, looks and appearance. Did Sebastian, was he, as he was maturing into a young man, was he starting to look like Seth? Did that bother her? Intellect, skin color, gender identity. For example, only a boy in the family might be the favorite or golden child, while the second-born daughter is assigned the scapegoat role. On the other hand, a narcissistic parent might prefer the child who brings the most glory to the family, while scapegoating the child who does not boost the family's public image. Maybe did a special needs child not do that? Scapegoating as a form of projection. In some cases, parents may mistreat young people who resemble or remind them of their ex-partners. For example, biological children might be treated differently from stepchildren or adopted children in the home. Only children of dysfunctional and A parents report that they are sometimes the golden child and other times the scapegoat. The same children can have these roles projected onto them indicating just how troubled parents who engage in this behavior really are. The parents who do this tend to lack the ability to understand, introspect, and understand their own projections. They might have been raised in a dysfunctional family. We know Katie was. I really would love to know the dynamics of Chris Proudfoot's family also. Why he's so argumentative. Was he the golden child? Could he do no wrong? While some children were scapegoats and others were golden children, they might have a personality disorder such as narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, which leads them to idealize and devalue others or engage in black and white thinking. What did Chris Proudfoot say in the interview? It's black and white. But what does it do to what was if Katie was choosing Chris? If she made her choice and it was Chris and over this in the CPS call, what would this have done to Sebastian? Because the trauma includes being deprived of a family's love, being singled out as the bad one in the household, having one's positive attributes overlooked. This can cause a lot of emotional and psychological distress. Even if you believe Katie and you think he ran away, and that's possible. It's possible. Why? Toxic relationships and environments can also result in these individuals entering friendships, romantic relationships, and working environments that are and harmful. Yeah, because these type of environments don't set off any red flags for someone who's been the scapegoat, right? No red flags. If you have gone through this, just know you deserve good things. You deserve to be treated well. You deserve to be valued. You have value. Normalizing dysfunctional behavior. I would say that Chris Proudfoot, in my opinion, just watching his interactions, is dysfunction, and often feel normal for family scapegoats, making it difficult for them to spot people who might not be safe. They might be dangerous. Difficulty setting boundaries. We've talked about this too. The fact that gaslighting is common in dysfunctional families makes it challenging for people to set boundaries and recognize when other people's behavior crosses the line. They're more likely to believe that they are exaggerating or being too sensitive or can't trust their own judgment. Self-sabotage. Scapegoats tend to internalize the harmful messages they receive about themselves from birth on in early childhood onward. This can result in engaging in self-sabotage, self-harm, such as doing badly in school, neglecting self-care, engaging in risky behaviors, risky activities, or acting out in ways that indicate they deserve the title of the scapegoat, even though no child does. So I think that's definitely worth considering when we're thinking about this guy and how we've seen him talking and how we've seen him acting. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and please consider joining our Reporter Room family by subscribing. I will see you next time. Bye.